Oh, the central New York weather was frightful, but Syracuse's opponent, LSU, not so frightful. Since the Tigers had no place to go, they lost in the Dome, lost in the Dome, lost in the Dome. Lost they did big time. 80-57 the final score. Syracuse's 5th win of the season, its first Power 5 victory, powered by one big performance from Judah Mintz. Thanks so much for joining us on Orange Press Pass. Alongside Jordan Leonard, Sam Reis, and Austin Barach, we'll have all the post-game coverage for you right now. Thanks so much for joining us from our CitrusTV studios. Ian Nicholas alongside Sam Reis and Jordan Leonard after a massive win for Syracuse in the first ever ACC-SEC Challenge. A weird first half, guys, but a dominant second half. And Sam, I don't know what you were thinking after the first half of action, but what are you thinking after the entire game and after a blowout win for the Orange?
Well, yeah, Ian, after those second 20 minutes in particular, I'm coming out of this game saying this is the first time this season I can say that if you're a Syracuse fan, you have a reason to truly be excited about this team, Jordan. You look at it, I expected this to be a close game coming in. The odds makers did as well. Yes, LSU didn't play as well as I thought they would. It was an abysmal performance from them, especially offensively. But on the offensive end for Syracuse, that's what impressed me the most. A lot of balance from the Orange. They didn't take too many threes, but when they did, they delivered, and also didn't shy away from taking it to the rim. 23 free throws in this game. 15 of those were for Judah Mintz, but I liked what I saw from the offense.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's the first game that you can really look at this team and be impressed. But on the defensive side, Syracuse, when they needed to get stops, they got it done. 19 turnovers they forced against LSU, 9 blocks, 8 steals. This defense can be really good going forward. This was the first time that they showed it against a Power 5 team for the full 60 minutes, especially in the second half. They have a lot of length, especially at the guard spot. I'm more impressed about the defense in this game particularly.
Sure. I'm surprised neither of you singled in on the performance of Judah Mintz. 33 points, a career high for the sophomore. Most points in the Dome since Buddy Boeheim late in 2022. By the way, that was my first time on Orange Press Pass. And now, first time we have Austin Barach reporting for the show. Austin, thanks so much for joining us. I'll give you a softball question here. What fueled Judah Mintz's career night?
Great question, Ian. This guy is just a big game performer. What I see out of Judah Mintz is a guy who loves the big-time moments. You think of last year against Duke, he got after early and often. Some slam dunks, some steals. You saw last week in the Maui Invitational. He was the single person who was trying to get that comeback against Tennessee, and then the next day against Gonzaga with those up and under layups. He's a guy who lives for these moments. He's a true warrior on the court. We saw him cry after the Wake Forest loss to end the season in the ACC tournament last year. And so today he established himself as the best player on the court. I'll always talk about Will Baker for LSU. Naheem McLeod shut him down. And Mintz, with his getting to the line in the first half and kicking out for shooters like Chris Bell in the second half, he controlled the entire pace of the game. He's just a big-time player, Ian.
Austin, it's always great to see you. Now, I wanted to ask about what it was like there for you at the Dome, because something I noticed watching on TV is the seats didn't seem to be entirely filled. So do you think the snowy conditions outside today maybe played a role in limiting the attendance? How was that atmosphere?
Yeah, you're right, Sam. The snowy conditions definitely played a big role. I mean, driving to the game here in Peter Elliott's car, I mean, we could barely see. The visibility was low. It was treacherous. There was snow whipping in our faces in seemingly every direction. And then pregame, it seemed like nobody was here. I got pretty worried for a moment. Like 30 minutes before tip, it was like maybe 1,000 people. But as the game got going, the crowd filled up. You could hear some jeers from the fans. They were getting into it. I mean, they were making their voices heard. There was never a huge pop. The Judah Mintz dunk was obviously the loudest one. I've heard this place get much louder. The final attendance was like 19,600. But for a Tuesday night with all these snowy conditions, with a work day tomorrow, the Syracuse fan base showed up pretty well.
Austin, you talk about Baker, the leading scorer for LSU, really held in check today. And you talk about the snowy conditions. That was LSU's offense, very cold from beyond the arc and on the day, held under 60 points. Was that more Syracuse's defense holding them or LSU's offense just a poor performance?
Jordan, I'm going to have to give you the age-old answer here, a little bit of both. I mean, you look at the Syracuse defense, they're going to take out the New Hampshire, Canisius, and Chaminade games. Those games, in my opinion, don't count, bad competition. This was the best defense they played in any game except for the second half against Colgate, but I'll say today was the best because they sustained it the entire 40 minutes. Coach Adrian Autry said so in the post-game press conference. These guys were flying around. Chris Bell was active on defense. He had a block. He was playing with his feet, staying in front of defenders. Judah Mintz stepped up his defense as well. And I mean, for LSU, like, their guards were simply not good. I mean, 2 of 22 from beyond the arc. There was zero threat of a perimeter game besides Baker, who got shut down. Like, you weren't scared of anybody. So it was a little bit of both, but you got to give a lot of defense to the Syracuse, a lot of credit to the Syracuse defense.
Austin Barach defending the Syracuse defense, which is very hard to play against, evidently. No longer the 2-3 zone, the treacherous 2-3 zone, to steal an Austin Barachism that was used under Jim Boeheim. Austin Barach, not the first time he'll be reporting for Orange Press Pass. Thanks so much for joining us. We still have so much more to talk about here in studio, though, and we'll show you the highlights from the game in a little bit and what was an 80-57 win for Syracuse over LSU, first Power 5 victory of the year. And guys, I know that Judah Mintz was sensational tonight, and the dunk is going to be all over SportsCenter, most likely tonight and tomorrow morning. But when did you know this was going to be a special night for the sophomore?
Jordan, I kind of got this vibe that he would go off for a big game, maybe not a career night, but pretty early on, because the thing about the first half was even Syracuse offensively was not impressing me whatsoever. Both teams very sluggish from the field, but the one guy that was showing up and really carrying the Syracuse offense was Judah Mintz. So I'd say about 5 minutes in, I was already realizing, hey, it might be a special night for this guy.
I think it took me a little bit longer than that. Get to halftime, Judah Mintz had 17 points. He had 10 free throws. That was more than any other player had points at halftime. 10 free throws, more points than any other player. That's kind of when I knew it was going to be a career night, because he was the only one scoring on the floor. So unless someone got going in the second half, it was going to be the Judah Mintz show the entire time.
He scored the first 12 points of that second half, a career effort for Judah Mintz. There's a reason why he was on the All-ACC team, the Bob Cousy Award watch list. He put the whole nation on alert tonight. He definitely put the Tigers on alert in their 13th straight road loss. We'll show you how it all shook up in just a moment, and we'll tell you who dominated outside of Judah Mintz when we return on Orange Press Pass. What does Judah Mintz have to do with Barry Sanders? We're going to talk about that right now here on Orange Press Pass. Ian Nicholas alongside Sam Reis and Jordan Leonard after an 80-57 win for Syracuse men's basketball over LSU. Sam, I go to you and I ask you, what does the former Detroit Lions running back have to do with the Syracuse point guard? Because Adrian Autry compared Judah Mintz to one of the greatest NFL players of all time after the game.
Yeah, he did. That was something that really stood out. One of the only things that really caught our attention when tuning into that post-game press conference with Adrian Autry. It's clear the new headman for the Orange has a lot of faith and is very high on the star of the Syracuse team, Judah Mintz. Being compared to Barry Sanders, it's pretty good company, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, he objectively is Barry Sanders on the basketball court.
Yeah.
He's very athletic,
Got a
can
point.
get to the hoop, has a lot of control over his body. Whenever he drives, he's never out of control anymore. Maybe sometimes as a freshman he learned that in the offseason.
Yep.
Today, 11 fouls drawn. He averages 10 per game. If you're drawing 10 fouls per game, you're going to get to the free throw line, and you have a lot of body control going to the hoop. He's very athletic. He's just good overall, kind of like Barry Sanders was with the Detroit Lions.
And that control is a key for me, Jordan, that I've noticed this season more so than last season, because you're right, there were moments last year where Judah Mintz was a little bit too fast for even himself with some careless turnovers. Tonight was a game in particular where he was making all of the right decisions, an unbelievable performance, and really carried the team on his back tonight, Ian.
Didn't need to carry the team at the end of the Maui Invitational against Division II Chaminade. He had just 4 points. Tonight, a lot more than 4 points. A career-high 33 for Judah Mintz. And although I've kind of been painting the picture like this was a one-man band, it wasn't. Because the shooting that was so mediocre for this team in Hawaii came to life tonight from beyond the arc. The Orange shot over 50% from deep. In Jordan, it was one man who's got one of the prettiest shots on the entire team, Chris Bell, who locked in.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Ian. Chris Bell was on fire from downtown, 6 of 10 from beyond the arc. He's really Syracuse's best shooter from beyond the arc overall, and it's because he establishes himself early in games going to the hoop. Early in the game, within the first 2 minutes, he pump fakes that shot, gets to the hoop. That makes the defense then sag off, which allows him to have even more space from downtown. And once he gets going, he just gets on fire. There's no stopping him once he nails that first shot.
And tonight was a game where Chris Bell didn't drive me crazy with maybe putting up too many threes. He took time to get going, I should say, Jordan. Just 3 points in that first half, but you're right. When he catches fire, there's just some of those games for him where he really starts to light it up. You hit the nail on the head. He had 6 of those 11 threes for Syracuse today. And I just felt like the Orange as a whole, Ian, were very good in their shot selection. Not too many threes, but boy, were they efficient when they put them up.
Right, I mean, against Chaminade, they were just chucking threes.
Exactly.
30.
Ridiculous,
And again, but you could afford that against a ridiculous opponent to play
Correct.
in Division II Chaminade.
Yep.
But against a legitimate team in the SEC and LSU, good to see that for the second game in a row, Syracuse with double-digit three-pointers made. Also something good to see, Syracuse wins on the board, Sam, after getting beat in the first half. A guy like Chris Bell, who was getting knocked for his rebounding all last season, he stepped up, but also some other names who were really big down low.
Yes, again, Justin Taylor delivered in a big way with 7 rebounds. Malik Brown was big time crashing the boards. And I'll tell you what, Jordan, this was a game where I was saying in that first half, maybe this is the same old story again for the Syracuse team where LSU was clearly out-rebounding this team, and the Orange had no spark going for them in terms of crashing the boards. But in the second half, it was a completely different story. This was a brand new team on the boards, dominating the glass, and that's what I like to see, something we haven't seen all year.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The reason they lost to Tennessee was because of the rebounding. Today, they were out-rebounded by 6 in the first half, getting dominated on the boards. In the second half, in the first half, LSU had 12 offensive rebounds. In the second half, just 1. Syracuse really made the adjustments at halftime, got aggressive on those boards. That's why they ended up coming out with the victory, but a big victory in that.
And a big botch on my end. You know, I just got such a big ego. I need as much camera time as possible. And so does Judah Mintz, because he had an unbelievable performance tonight. And although Chris Bell was great, and yes, Sam, I know you love Justin Taylor more than anybody else at CitrusTV, but Judah Mintz did have a career-high 33 points, but the biggest part of his performance, in my opinion, what he did to separate Syracuse at the start of the second half. The Orange go on a 12-0 run out of a halftime locker room, and it was all him. It was all number 3. And number 3 is not number 3 in the ACC. For my money, he is the best point guard in the ACC right now after that performance, and that's why he's our Orange Press Pass Player of the Game. When we return here from Citrus TV, we're going to have a little bit of fun. Remember when I mentioned before the show that the weather outside was frightful? It was snowing cats and dogs. Is that even an expression? It was snowing hard before the game and during the game, and we're going to find out what Syracuse basketball players would be doing if they had the day off for a snow day when we come back. Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Ian Nicholas alongside Sam Reis and Jordan Leonard, all in front of the camera at the same time. No more botches on my end. And hopefully no more slip-ups because it's time to prepare for a snow day. I'm prepared. Are you prepared?
Oh, I'm ready.
You've got dress shoes on.
Well, we're professional here.
I brought the boots and then changed out of the boots to get into the dress shoes.
Versatile. Like Syracuse tonight in the second half.
Yes, very.
Yeah, I'm anti-boots.
Oh, anti-boots?
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you anti-snow day calculator, though, in high school? Because for us Northeasterners, that was like the Bible.
Oh, it was. Jordan, I'll tell you what, I'm a Massachusetts native. I know you're from the Northeast as well. Whenever there was the threat of snow, I was refreshing that calculator every 5 minutes, doing my own calculations, saying, are we going to get a snow day?
Yeah, the snow day calculator was the most accurate thing I think of my childhood. Anytime that it said above 75% chance of a snow day, we were having a snow day.
That was a lock. Not as accurate as CitrusTV News, but pretty close, that snow day calculator. But what would Syracuse basketball players be doing if they weren't beating LSU and they did have that snow day? For instance, Sam, what's Justin Taylor doing on a day off?
Justin Taylor, on a snow day, he's getting out there and enjoying every moment of it. I'll tell you that much, Jordan. He's the type of guy that's going to go out, use all of his energy playing around in the snow. He's gonna play some street hockey out in the snow. He's gonna, maybe even do some tackle football in the snow. And that's because he's a guy who simply does it all. And that was on full display tonight. He led the team in assists with 5. He's also, beyond his playmaking ability, a consistently good rebounder this season in his sophomore campaign. Look, he may not be the best scorer, but I love his work ethic, basketball IQ. He's doing it all on a snow day because that's what he's doing on the court tonight.
No, you're right. He definitely does everything on the court, but I'm going to go with a different analogy. He's that 45-year-old dad that doesn't have the snowplow, only has the shovel. He is a grinder on the court. He's never going to be the best player on the court. He's always going to have to work harder than everyone else. He scores, he rebounds, he even assisted today, had 5 assists. He can do everything. He's going to grind out every single game. Didn't shoot well in the Maui Invitational. Comes back, hits 2 threes tonight. That's why why he's that guy shoveling the entire driveway at home on a snow day.
Right, he had more assists than either guard in the backcourt, doing it all. Old school 7 rebounds as well, the throwback performance for Justin Taylor. How about Chris Bell, though? He had the flashy performance, Jordan, with 20 points, and he seems like a laid-back kind of guy. I don't know where you're going with this, but, Chris Bell finds out through the little phone at 6 in the morning that his school district has shut down school for the day. What is he doing with his day off?
Yeah, you mentioned he wakes up at 6 in the morning to find out. Well, he goes back to sleep until then, turns on some Netflix. He's very relaxed on his snow day. He's just trying to recoup, get better, kind of a little bit lazy, but he needs the hot chocolate. The perfect hot chocolate is really going to make or break his day, and that's really how Chris Bell is as a player. If he makes that first couple shots, his day is going to be great like he did today with 20 points. If you look at Colgate game when he had 25, he hit his shots early, and that's what determined his great day. If he doesn't have that great hot chocolate, doesn't hit those first couple shots, it could be bad spells for Chris Bell.
I tend to agree with you, Jordan. And for me, Chris Bell's the type of guy on a snow day that he's going to wait for his time to actually go outside and enjoy himself on a snow day. In fact, he's going to wait for all the blizzardry, I just made up that word, conditions to pass through, all that snow to go by. But then once that clears up, all the snow's down on the ground, he's going to go out and enjoy himself. And that's because Chris Bell is a player who has his moments. You hit the nail on the head. Earlier in the season, he had a game against UNH where he scored just 5 points, only at 6 against Gonzaga in 35 minutes, but then today, he goes off for 17 points in the final 20. He's waiting for his moments to enjoy himself on a snow day.
I think he needs some more hot chocolate, because what Chris Bell are you getting? You getting the Chris Bell who went back to sleep against Gonzaga and shot 2 of 18 from the floor, or are you getting the Chris Bell that showed up against Colgate and LSU?
The question is, does the hot chocolate have marshmallows in it? Could make or break the day,
that cools it off. So he needs
cools
to stay
it off,
hot.
But does it make it better?
I don't know.
Yes,
Personally,
it does.
I like a classic clean hot chocolate.
Come on.
J.J. Starling needs a little something, though, right? Because, yes, he contributed as a passer tonight, did some work on the board, Sam, but under 5 points, he's continuing to struggle shooting the ball.
Yes.
Is he struggling on a snow day, or is he taking it to maybe get a reset in there?
Everyone loves a snow day, but apparently not J.J. Starling. He's the type of guy.
He's from Central New York.
Yeah, but
he doesn't get snow days.
Right.
Well, that's true, but if he does, he's not taking advantage of it, Jordan. He's the guy who just stays inside and doesn't take full advantage of a good old snow day. Like my dad, who just complains about the snow, doesn't want to enjoy himself in the snow. I mean, J.J. Starling had a great opportunity tonight to really be the good facilitator that he was highly touted as coming into the season. And in the end, he had as many assists as turnovers, 3, and he was 0 for 6 from the field. He was just really a non-factor tonight.
J.J. Starling is exactly like the system that we had growing up. My dad had the snowplow. I was shoveling. He always had the good intentions, but today he slipped on the black ice when he was trying to shovel for his dad, being Judah Mintz in this scenario. He always trying. He's trying to do well. He does well most of the time, but today he slipped on the black ice. He had double figures in 4 of the first 6 games. Tonight, not so much. And he's still going to be good throughout the rest of the year. He's still going to be consistent, but tonight he just slipped on the black ice a little bit.
Why are the dads taking the pot shots? I mean, if we're going to continue to pile on, I don't know if I ever made a legitimate snowman growing up. Maybe like 1. We needed to make more in the Nicholas household. But, I don't know. I just feel that you guys are piling in on your fathers on snow days. Like, it's not their fault you're home
I
from
wasn't
school.
blaming my dad. I was saying what I tried to do to help my dad during a snow day.
Okay, so it was only Sam.
Yeah, my dad wants to move down to Florida where Jordan's living now.
All right, well,
No more snow days
I'm sure
for me.
Jordan's got some room. We've got a little more room to talk here on Orange Press Pass. ACC SEC Challenge tonight. For the first time, Syracuse and LSU weren't the only teams playing. We'll take a look around the nation and show you how the other teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference fared against the teams that just mean a little bit more from down south. Thanks so much for sticking with us on Orange Press Pass. Ian Nicholas still alongside Sam Reis and Jordan Leonard after SU's first Power 5 victory of the year, 80-57 against LSU. Also Syracuse's first ever ACC-SEC challenge, but these two teams weren't the only ones playing in this midseason tournament competition, whatever you want to call it. There were more teams, guys, competing in this first of many annual events. And looking at the bottom left of the screen, Sam, a team that made it to the Elite Eight a year ago getting blown out in Miami.
That's what stands out, no doubt about it. 95-73, the Wildcats cruising in this one. I expect this one to be a very competitive game, Jordan, and it's a Miami team that's on the older side. Maybe they got tired down the stretch. Kentucky, very balanced all-around scoring, an impressive win for the Wildcats.
Yeah, one of the shockers, Georgia Tech getting the upset at home against Mississippi State, a ranked win for the Yellow Jackets. And then at the bottom right of the screen, Clemson, a solid team, not in the AP Top 25 just yet, but having a solid game against number 23 Alabama on the road to boot. So two teams in the ACC getting the job done tonight.
Well, you talk about going on the road. Joe Girard left home to go play for the Tigers. Syracuse is going to see him later this season. But looking at Syracuse's upcoming schedule, yes, they had the ACC opener against Virginia this week. But Jordan, I'm looking down the line and I'm seeing some fun contests. Georgetown and Oregon in South Dakota.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The next 4 games, 3 of the 4 are very tough contests, really going to prove to what Syracuse can be going forward this season. Virginia, great test on the road to open ACC play at Georgetown. Georgetown's not as good as a team as they've been in the past, but another true road game. And then that Oregon game on a neutral court. Great times to see what Syracuse is made of coming into ACC play.
Yeah, it's always interesting how the schedule is in conference play, where you have that first ACC game on the first weekend of December, but then a plethora of non-conference games still on the docket, even Niagara after Oregon to round out December. I think you got to go 2-2 here if you're Syracuse, and you're in a pretty decent spot considering the opposition, as Jordan said. Not the easiest test coming up, Ian.
No, Sam, you've got a Virginia team that you're going to hear about a little bit more on our next Orange Press Pass. 5-1 on the year, but just on the bottom edge of the rankings. Still, they're going to play tough defense under Tony Bennett. And always a hard team to face, especially with one of the best guards in the nation still in front of UVA and Reis Beekman. But we're not talking about Reis Beekman, we're talking about Syracuse and LSU, an 80-57 win for the Orange tonight. And Sam, when tonight's over, when your head hits the pillow, what are you going to be thinking about from this game? I'm
going to be thinking, can Syracuse please rebound the basketball going forward for the rest of the season like they did tonight? I loved what I saw. 43-36, Syracuse out-rebounded LSU. It's about time they were finally competent in that department, because when you go against more physical teams in the ACC, that could be a big factor. They need to keep doing that going forward.
Rebound, definitely a necessary factor. I don't think it's the biggest one. Syracuse needs a third scorer other than Judah Mintz and Chris Bell. One, Chris Bell is hot and cold. You're not going to get him necessarily every single night, and you can't beat teams like a Virginia, like an Oregon, if you don't have 3 scorers. Chris Bell and Judah Mintz were the only 2 scorers in double figures for Syracuse. Need more from the general team as a whole.
You got Batman, you got Robin. I don't even know. Who is Alfred the Butler? I guess we'll never know. But we know Syracuse beat LSU tonight. Ian Nicholas, Sam Reis, Jordan Leonard, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you for the UVA game.